welcome to another episode of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I am Rico, and I'd like to remind everyone that I am not a doctor, not a therapist, and I'm not a medical professional in any way. Just a regular person trying to navigate through life and trying to navigate what's going on here. Because it's still a mess, more so than I thought. Before I get on topic of this video, I just want to mention, I just want to talk about the dreams that I've been having. Things aren't really all that great right now for me. And my subconscious is really exploding. It's really, and not to mention my mind is racing all the time. I couldn't fall asleep. And then when I did sleep, it was just horrible, horrible dreams. Nothing but horrible dreams. It just seems like my conscience is just telling me that things are in turmoil, and it knows it. But it's so exhausting to not even rest when you sleep. I woke up tired. I woke up angry. I woke up irritated. I woke up just not in a good mood at all. Not rested. And that's a tough one. I don't know how to combat the subconscious. I don't know how to stop that from happening. I don't know how to slow my mind down sometimes. I'm not going to say I'm like that all the time, but just from yesterday and today, it's been quite much. I would also like to say that I do recognize myself as an empath. I do recognize other people's feelings and their moods and their temperament. And yesterday, and I'm not blaming anyone, I already talked to one of my boys about this, but they were both having kind of a tough day. And I was able to kind of de-escalate and keep things chill. I helped my one son. He was having problems with his microphone, so I gave him my cable because he wasn't sure what it was. So we just switched the cable, and that's what it was, and then he was fine. My other son, I'm not going to go into any of his details right now, but he was having a tough day as well. And then I noticed when I went to sleep, I just was feeling all of their feelings. And again, I'm not blaming them. I'm not saying they put it on me. I'm just saying that I'm a sponge and I just soaked it up. I encourage them to feel their feelings. I encourage them to just be who they are and just let it happen. If you ignore them long enough, they will come back. And that's what I've learned about myself. I've ignored them for time and time again, long enough. By the time I started to feel like I was able to express myself and my feelings, everything just kind of blows up. And it's difficult to deal with. So I just wanted to mention that. I still have a long way to go. I've come a pretty good distance already, but I have so far to go. Things are just not easy sometimes. You kind of deal with it and you roll with the punches, but you really wish there were no punches. But I want to get back to this video and get back to the topic of my work and my past jobs, each one in detail. The last video ended, I think, with me not working at the moving company anymore because I had gotten into a pretty severe car accident and got whiplash, and they told me I couldn't work. So when I come back from this break, I will continue the story of my work experience after the moving company. But I will take a real quick break, and I'll be back with a little more of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. So with this video, I want to get back to the topic of my work, my past work and jobs experiences. And I'm kind of doing them one by one, a little more in detail. I just realized I hadn't really talked about them that much in my last videos. I talked more about just home life and relationships with people. My work experience really influenced me as well, a lot. And looking back on all of that, I can tell what my childhood, or I should say how my childhood dealings would influence my behavior and my reactions and interactions with people much later on. So in the last video, I was talking about moving furniture, and I had gotten into a pretty good car accident. When I say good, I mean bad. I totaled the car, and I got severe whiplash. So they didn't want me to work. And in that time, I just decided I didn't want to move the furniture anymore. So I took a little bit of time off. But that didn't last very long because, of course, my dad wants me to work because he wants my money. My parents want me to work because they want my money. So they just kind of pushed me to get back to work. So I was lucky that I found a job at the local mall in a department store. It was through a friend of a friend, and it was okay. It was an all right job. I got to flirt with all the women in the mall whenever I was on break, and got to hang out and just be a mall rat when I was not working, and I was there all the time, so it wasn't bad. I got to work indoors in the air conditioning. It was okay, except for the fact that this was 1993. I was getting paid less than $7 an hour, but I didn't care. It was money in my pocket. It was indoors, and it was with plenty of lovely women around that I could flirt with, and I enjoyed that a lot. That was fun for me. But the pay was garbage, and then it being a larger department store, that meant there were more departments, and there was more people, and there were more supervisors and more managers, more people with the superiority complex, more people that their only job was to tell you what to do. They didn't really have to do any of the hard work, but they could give you a hard time about the way you're doing the hard work. And it was difficult to stay positive because you would work all day and move all this stuff, and then they would come around and act like it wasn't enough. Like they needed a little bit more. They wanted more. They needed more. And the pay was crap, but they wanted like twice as much of work out of you. Just like all the others, like all the other jobs. But getting back to that friend who hired me, he was, I suppose, the supervisor of the little team that he hired me onto. And he was also a musician. And he and the other friend and I, along with another guy, we formed a band. And it was cool for a bit. I'm not going to badmouth it, but it was a bar band. We just played top 40. I didn't really care for a lot of the songs, but we kept getting gigs and we kept playing at the bars on the weekends. Sometimes we played Friday and Saturday. And he had a knack for getting the gigs. Although sometimes we would play at some place way out in Vermont, and it was just, they didn't want to hear us there. But we played and we got paid, and that was all that mattered to me. And it was fun. And I think that's just going to be, I'm going to go a little more into detail of that, in another video. That's a story for another time. But getting back to working at this department store, actually, I am going to take a real quick break, and I will get back to the story of working at this department store. I'll be back right after this break. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Getting back to the topic of my job at the department store in particular. I had started in one department and I'd managed to move up to another department and actually become a supervisor. But I just noticed that, they could give somebody a title and it doesn't mean they're going to treat you any different. I was still treated like I didn't matter. I was still treated like I was at the bottom. I was still treated like they were all above me. Everyone who got to wear a shirt and a tie got to come over and, degrade me for a little while. And for some stupid reason, I stayed there for 5 years. But being a supervisor meant more responsibility, but it didn't mean more pay. I would ask, and this is going to be a constant theme of my life. They would all tell me, let's just see how it goes. And if it goes well, then we'll give you a little bump. I don't know how many times I've been told that, and there was no bump. Ever. Let's see how it goes. And then it goes well, as I know it always does, but they didn't really want to follow through with their promises. All empty promises is all I ever got. And just like all the other jobs, it was okay until it wasn't. It was fine until I just couldn't take it anymore. Never an encouraging word. Plenty of criticizing. For the most petty of reasons. The most petty of reasons. We would be working all day, and then we would take a 5-minute break just to chill out for a second. And that was always when one of the managers would walk by. And that's when they would always have something snarky and stupid to say. And I know just in the back of their minds, that's what they think I was, and that's all they thought I was. They didn't see any of the good. They didn't see any of the hard work. They didn't see any of the loyalty or they didn't see any of it. They just saw, oh, you're taking a break. Oh, you're lazy. And that's how all of them treated me. All of them in that godforsaken place. It was like nothing I did was good enough. Again, this is another constant theme of my life. No matter what I do, it's not good enough for the higher ups. And I don't know what I did to not deserve to be acknowledged or recognized or appreciated. But they all acted like I was just, lucky to be there. You're lucky you even have a job. You're lucky we gave you something to do, even though the pay's crap and you got to work hard. So I got really frustrated and I ended up leaving. I just had enough. I went and tried to do something else, which was really short-lived because it was a dumb idea. And I'm not even going to go into detail with that because it only lasted probably 2 days. But I quit without having another job lined up. I thought this little endeavor that I was going to try was going to work, and it didn't. But, getting back to the department store, I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. They wouldn't ever listen to me or give me any consideration. No matter how hard I worked or no matter how well I took care of things, they weren't going to consider any, pay bumps or anything. So you decide you have had enough and you move on. Quite honestly, looking back, I should have moved on a lot sooner. But again, this is another repeat. I got comfortable. I thought there was nothing else out there for me. And I thought, this is all there is. This, at least I have something. At any time during that time, I could have started looking for something else, something better, somewhere else. But I didn't. I just got comfortable. I got comfortable with the abuse and the disrespect, just like my childhood. It seemed kind of normal, I guess, to me. I don't know why I took it for so long, but I did. But I'm going to get back to this video after this little break, and I'll be back with some more. This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. On the topic of my past jobs, going through them one at a time. And I just finished out working at a department store. I couldn't take it there anymore, so I left. Had a little bit of time off. And I should mention, during this time, while I was working at the department store, I met my ex-wife. And at the time we were still dating, but we got an apartment together. So we moved out and we had our own place. So I was living with her in an apartment at the time that I had left the department store job. I tried another little endeavor, which I'm not going to get into detail about, but it didn't work for me. So I found myself without a job. So I just started applying all over the place. And I managed to get a job at a fastener company. This place made bolts and screws. And there were two different types of machines. There were the headers, which put the tops on the bolts and the screws. And then there were the rollers that put all of the threads on them. So this was a factory job. It was loud. It was stupid. It was dirty. It was in a place, in a building, I should say, that had these painted white floors. So they expect you to keep them clean around these dirty, greasy, oily machines. You had to keep the machines clean. You had to wipe everything down and mop the floors, and it was a nightmare. But I was hired as an operator. There were two positions. There was the setup man who would get the machine running, and then the operator would do pretty much everything else. Do all the specifications, check the parts, make sure that they're where they need to be, emptying the bins, making all the tags. At first we did data entry on a computer, but the system went down for some reason, so we just had to write it down on clipboards. And the nice thing about that place was that we were working 4 10-hour days, which meant we had 3 days off. And that was not bad. And the pay was better than my last job. It was a lot better. It wasn't great, but it was better. And, it was all right. Now, I fit in with a lot of the guys very well. But just like all of my jobs, there were the not so great ones to work with. I had a bunch of great coworkers, but there was always exceptions. And again, those in charge were the biggest a-holes I've ever dealt with. They were egotistical and self-centered, and they just walked around like their poo didn't stink. They looked down on you. They just talked crap to everyone. If you needed some help, they would kind of get all sarcastic and give you a bunch of crap for needing some help. And, you just dealt with it, rolled with those punches again. Kind of wishing there weren't any punches, but there are, so you have to roll with them, and that's just how it was for me. But soon, I think they started getting more orders for parts. So they decided to put out a little notice. Hey, if you want to work on Friday as well, it's voluntary, and you could get some overtime and you can get some extra hours. So of course everybody wants a little bit more money, so we all agreed, yeah, we'll work on a Friday. That's cool. Not everybody had to do it. If you didn't want to do it, you didn't have to. But that didn't take long at all for them to just decide, we want you to work Fridays now. And then now they're mandatory for everyone. And then soon it was Saturdays as well. So you went from 4 days a week now to 6 days a week. It was 1 day off. And you had no say in any of it. But I am going to take another break, and I will be back with a little more of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. This is going to be a little bit longer of a video because I had an extra segment at the beginning and I was just talking about my dreams and my recent life and how my subconscious is telling me, sending me messages about all of it. And it's just a little uneasy, but it is what it is. And so I want to get back to working in this factory. Now, I had mentioned we suddenly found ourselves going from 40 hours to 56 hours, going from 4 days a week to 6 days a week. And we had no choice. We had no say. We had just had to do it. And at the time, some guys come and go, just like anywhere else. So I managed to move up from an operator to a setup man. So I got to be the guy setting up the machines. I got to be the one, not doing as much. Once I get the machine running and all the specifications were correct, then the operator had to do the rest of the work. Even though I would still help them. Nobody helped me when I was an operator, but I would help them just to kind of make sure things were where they needed to be. But I was still treated like I was at the bottom. I was still looked down upon. They still just had no time. Now I'm a setup man. The one guy that's supposed to be training me, he would get offended if I asked him any questions. He would get just irritated and give me this bad attitude. You should know this already. Nobody taught me. I learned how to set up those machines by myself. Of course, I had other setup men that I could talk to and ask questions, and they helped me and they helped me learn. But the one guy that was supposed to be teaching me was getting upset whenever I would ask him a question. He would roll his eyes and he would give me this attitude and he would just talk down to me and pretend that I was supposed to know this stuff already when he was supposed to teach me. Everybody that was supposed to be teaching me anything in my lifetime just wanted to make me feel bad for not knowing it. They just couldn't put that ego aside and just take that as a teaching moment. They just couldn't do it. So during this time, while I'm working at this factory, my ex-wife, we got married, and then we had baby boys, and we brought the baby boys home. I became so frustrated with this job that I decided to just leave. I quit, and I decided to be Mr. Mom for like 4 months. I stayed home with my baby boys. That way we didn't have to have anybody else watching them. And it made life a lot easier that way, even though it was a little more challenging financially. Luckily, we were in a place that was not too expensive, and my ex-wife was making some decent money at her job. But I quit the factory out of pure frustration. I just could not take it anymore. They didn't want to listen. They didn't want to treat me with respect. They didn't want to treat me like I was a peer. They just looked down on me and acted like I was beneath them. All of them did. I should say all of the management. All the management did. So I took some time off. Mr. Mom, took care of some twin baby boys. And I did that for 4 months and I loved it. So I'm going to conclude this video. And let's see, in the next one, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go to a return center. But that's a story for another video. And I thank you all for watching. I love you and thank you all for your support. And just ask that you like, share, subscribe, please. I am Rico, and I will be back with another episode of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child.